The advent of generative AI, or GenAI, was a turning point for the democratisation of artificial intelligence. It introduces new and innovative workflows, processes, and products capable of offering a competitive edge to any enterprise that adopts it. Nowadays, AI is no longer omnipresent, it's becoming omnipotent. Understanding potential threats and vulnerabilities in machine learning and AI systems is necessary and will help you grasp the importance of protecting your deployments and integrations from attacks that are designed to fool or manipulate your systems and data. And while business considerations may be top of mind, security aspects, legal and ethical, compliance, data protection laws, and regulations are becoming increasingly critical as organizations leverage more complex models that are potentially dealing with sensitive use cases and data. In fact, the huge potential of these systems requires well thought out frameworks and regulations to manage security, privacy, transparency, integrity, and build trust among users. Imagine, for instance, an insecure or biased AI model deciding who gets admitted or not into a university. The EU has understood the huge potential of these systems and their associated risks and has adopted, in March of 2024, the Artificial Intelligence Act, also known as the EU AI Act. It is considered to be the world's first comprehensive legal framework for AI. The Act prescribes rules for putting into service or using AI systems in the EU, or elsewhere if it affects users in the EU or their data. It has general rules on data quality, transparency, human oversight, and accountability. EU standard bodies, however, are still expected to develop more specific standards and guidelines to support this regulation. This area of adversarial ML and AI is still pretty much a greenfield, and a very active area of research is constantly evolving. So more specific and prescriptive requirements will certainly be needed and frequently updated to stay on top of this rapidly changing landscape. Now, let's have a look at some of the obligations and requirements under the EU AI Act. First of all, it prohibits a number of AI practices, such as social scoring, AI systems that deploy subliminal techniques, manipulations and deception, or systems used to predict personal or personality characteristics. If an AI system is doing any of the practices defined in Article 5 of the Act, it will likely be prohibited. There are, however, exceptions for law enforcement or medical and safety reasons that are described in the same article. Now, depending on the role the organisation has, as defined in Article 2, and the type of AI system itself, the obligations may vary. For general-purpose AI systems, including those with systemic risk, meaning having high impact capabilities, this may include LLMs for instance, there are several obligations including providing technical documentation of the model, as well as information about its training and testing processes, and a sufficient detailed summary about the data used for the training. Second, performing model evaluation in accordance with standardized protocols and tools. Third, putting in place a policy to respect union copyright law. And finally, ensuring an adequate level of cybersecurity protection for the model, as well as its physical infrastructure. As already mentioned, the codes of practice on how to properly apply these requirements and obligations are yet to be defined and harmonised, and this will be done between now and 2026. The Act puts a special emphasis on systems that may pose a significant risk of harm to the health, safety, or fundamental rights of natural persons, and consider these systems as high risk. There are, however, some derogations based on certain criteria described in Article 6 of the Act, such as situations where the system is intended to only perform a narrow procedural task or to improve the result of a previously completed human activity. These high-risk systems are covered by the EU harmonisation legislation listed in Annex 1 and Annex 3 of the Act, including machinery, medical devices, radio equipment, biometric identification, emotion recognition, and so on. Here are the requirements for compliance listed in the Act in Chapter 3, Section 2. There are 7 in particular that we'll cover. 1. Establish, implement, document, and maintain a risk management system, Article 9. This article also talks about testing against requirements. Testing shall ensure that high-risk AI systems perform consistently for their intended purpose and they are in compliance with the requirements. The Act also mentions putting in place a quality management system in Article 17 that ensures compliance. 2. Appropriate data governance and management practices, Article 10. Two interesting aspects mentioned in this article are bias and personal data, where it mandates appropriate measures to detect, prevent, and mitigate possible biases, and allows the exceptional use of personal data under specific conditions to correct bias. 3. Technical documentation in Article 11 that contains information described in Annex 4. Record keeping, Article 12, which is about logging and traceability. 5. Transparency and provision of information in Article 13. Explainability is mentioned in this article. 6. Human oversight from Article 14, which is the human in the loop provision and should be commensurated with the risks. And a final requirement about accuracy, robustness and cybersecurity in Article 15. The regulation mandates an appropriate level of accuracy, robustness and cybersecurity. On how to measure this, the Act mentions that the Commission shall encourage the development of benchmarks and measurement methodologies. The article also mentions resilience to errors, faults or inconsistencies, as well as attacks and potential model weaknesses, including measures to prevent, detect, respond to, resolve and control for attacks trying to manipulate the training data set, data poisoning, or pre-trained components used in training, model poisoning, inputs designed to cause the model to make a mistake, adversarial examples or model evasion, and confidentiality attacks or model flaws. The obligations and requirements of the EU AI Act set out a comprehensive framework to govern the development, deployment and management of AI systems and ensure they're safe, secure and trustworthy. Anyone using AI will certainly need the mechanisms and tools to detect, prevent and mitigate adversarial threats, bias, address privacy concerns or ethics issues, as well as ensure fairness and transparency of the systems they are building or integrating. This Act presents a much-needed holistic approach to dealing with one of the most disruptive technologies of the 21st century. Now, being proactive about implementing the requirements and managing risk is the best way to ensure compliance. Integrating threat modeling into your system's lifecycle, for instance, can be of great help in planning for and meeting security and compliance requirements. As a matter of fact, to establish a risk management program, for instance, or meet an appropriate level of cybersecurity, threat modeling is not just a nice to have, it's essential. It will identify threats and potential attack vectors to your systems, whether you are building and deploying a model from scratch or integrating an existing AI model or system into your application. It will also help newcomers understand the basics of models creation, deployment or integration, and the different types of adversarial attacks they can be subjected to, including evasion, poisoning, model extraction, privacy issues, and so on. At Irius Risk, for instance, we've built content that helps data practitioners and engineers understand how adversaries will take aim at their AI systems and integrations, from data collection to deploying or integrating models, and generating and using their outputs. You can find out more by visiting our AI and ML security library page on our website. We hope you found this Start Left Diary useful and look forward to sharing more content with you soon.